our responsibility to find ways to make learning exciting. The BJ Fogg model is basically behaviors equal motivation, ability, and prompts. What we do with, say, math lessons for a living education, we have easy lessons. They don't require as much motivation, because if we can get the math done and it's easier and we're learning and it's more fun, then it requires less motivation. Sometimes we go right to motivation and think, I'm just going to find motivation. Motivation rarely works in helping. Sometimes it's more the ability. Like, are we asking too much?
What affected me most was just the way that you or mom reacted to situations, or you or mom reacted to the older siblings.
Hey, good afternoon, moms of Master Books. Seems like I just did this.
Oh yeah, this morning
I
you
did.
Okay.
Yeah, and we did it earlier this week too. So today we're going to talk about a teaching tip, make sure I'm in the right group. Yep, I'm good.
You are, good job.
Okay, so we want to talk about behavioral design and a model that I've come across. And here's what I do as a marketer. One of the things that you try to figure out is ways to relate to people in easy terminology, why things work. And so part of this is you're going to see why Master Books work so well with kids and why people will say it's a game changer. But I think you can apply this to almost anything in life. So the first thing we have to, though, kind of do is get a paradigm right, that as parents, we are leaders. And I think sometimes we came into parenting, it's almost like, okay, we're parents and we've got to manage the kids. We manage the house. We manage our lives. But I think instead we want to take on a bit more of a proactive role in that we are leaders. We are leading our families. We are leading our children. We are leading those around us. It's not just management and survival. It's leading to thrive, right? Thrive rather than survive. It's easy to get into the mode of going through the motions. We wake up, we do our thing, we go to bed wondering, man, what was different about today? What did we actually accomplish? Was anything done? And that's part of what we want to talk about. The second thing that I would say, especially when it comes to kids, is, and being a leader or being a teacher, is when we step into that role, it's our responsibility to find ways to make learning exciting. So when I was a principal of a school, one of the things that would drive me absolutely insane was when the teachers would come in and say, little Johnny he doesn't want to learn. He's unteachable. And it was more often than not, it was, you're boring, or it's your fault. You're the teacher. And instead of you teaching, you're just expecting him to be a natural learner for everything. So, hey, are we giving away reward points today?
We are giving away reward points today.
Okay, we're just going to choose, I think
we'll just choose a comment in both the Facebook and the app. Is that okay?
Yeah. So if you're in the app, make sure that you comment, and if you're in the Facebook live as well, make sure you comment. Let us know you're here.
Let us know and say hey. And Erin jumped in on the Facebook Live, so hi.
No, she didn't say hi. She said
hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all. Erin
is the pronunciation on the ya or the all?
Y'all.
Hey,
y'all.
All.
Is yours on the y'all?
Hey, y'all.
Y'all.
Yeah, mine's on the ya.
Mine's on the y'all. y'all.
Yeah. Okay.
And then hey to everybody jumping in over on the app. And thank you for the compliments on the shirt. They like my shirt.
Are you sure? It was your shirt?
My shirt.
Did they say Brittany's shirt or my shirt?
Her.
No, they said blouse.
Okay, my
I love
blouse.
the blouse. This is a
And
blouse.
then my friend Jess said, I agree, her shirt is super cute. Shirt and blouse. They're both mine.
Okay.
It was a compliment towards me.
But
You get so many trophies, you could just give me this one.
when you go clothes shopping, you want to make sure that you don't get ripped off like that again. Okay, so.
Never mind.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm saying is make sure that from as a parent you take on the role of, it's my job to lead, it's my job to help my family be successful. It's not my family's responsibility to go there and I will manage the process, because that's just not the way leadership works. We get what we lead. And if we don't put much into leadership, and this is a challenge for all of us, if we just spend a lot of our time on our phones and or watching TV, and we're not really investing into our children, and we're just managing things, we will have a ho-hum family experience. If we put more into our experience as a family, we get more out of it. And that happens all the time in our family. All I have to do is up my game a little bit, and I get a lot more from the family experience. And when it comes to homeschooling, we take on the role of being a teacher, and we need to work to help our students learn, to learn the best for them. We can't be upset with them because they're just not interested in learning, because who is, until that becomes exciting. So, good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good.
You a little jumpy.
I was just breathing in. Also, Vicky said that boys don't wear blouses, so again, it was mine.
Oh. I don't know. It's a blouse. No. What makes a blouse?
Vicky said that it's
not.
not.
Okay.
That's what makes it. Vicky is the standard.
Yes. Okay. So, what I want to talk about is a behavioral design is looking for ways to adapt environment or the way we behave. It's modifying habits. A lot of what you do during the day is habit-based. You don't even have to think about it, right? Maybe you've driven to work, or you remember, like, you've driven somewhere so many times, and you think, okay, I don't even remember getting in the car, turning the key, driving to this place and parking the car. That's how children get left in hot vehicles. Our brains just go into auto drive, and we're just moving through the motions. But let's say you're driving and all of a sudden a car pulls out in front of you and you almost have an accident, and suddenly your brain is awakened and your adrenaline is flowing and all of that. Now all of a sudden you remember everything from that moment, or the first time you got behind the wheel of a car with me. There was no disconnect, right? It was white knuckle, here we go.
For both of us.
For both of us, yeah.
He used to pull the parking brake on me, and drive-thrus scared me horribly. I'd be like, what have I done? I just ruined the car. He's like, I thought I was gonna die. He's like, I pulled the parking brake because you almost took out the building. I was like, no, I have like this much room.
I mellowed a lot though by the time we got to you.
Yeah, because you
Poor Carrie. I punched Carrie. She scared me, and I have a fight response, not a flight response. And so she almost came across the line or something, and I just decked her. And poor kid.
You definitely mellowed down a bit.
But hey, 5 of you are driving, and 5 of you passed. So that's good.
And 5 of us did it in a 12-passenger van.
Yeah.
Impressive.
You actually we drove me the most, but
Jess said my mom used to cry and pray with my brother in the back seat when she was driving. Somebody also said that blue is your color, so there you go.
Thank you. That's nice.
Now you can
you
can take that, and I'll take my
A
compliment.
blue blouse is it's my favorite.
It's not.
Okay. So what I want to talk about, it's the BJ Fogg model. It's a motivation model, and as we walk it through, you can apply this to almost anything. Unfortunately for the app, our phone is flipping the image, so I'm hoping that you're going to be able to kind of get it. The BJ Fogg model is basically behaviors equal motivation, ability, and prompts. So we'll go through this a little bit. Let's say that speeding, right? How do we keep going 55 miles an hour? Okay, so my behavior to go 55 miles an hour equals I'm motivated by the fact that if I go over 55 miles an hour, I may actually get a speeding ticket, and that's going to cause me pain. No. Blouses.
You got distracted by the comments. Anna said men wear dress shirts, not blouses. Thank you very much.
That's an opinion.
Just take your compliment about having a nice blue shirt and I have a nice blouse. Not everything has to be about you.
It's so easy to get riled up. Okay.
It's a game day.
It's a dress shirt. I would never tell somebody I need to go change my blouse. I would never do that. So it's just fun to annoy people. Okay. So my behavior is wanting to drive 55. The motivation is if I go over 55, I might get pulled over and get a ticket. The ability to do that is easy or hard. It's easy, right? I just let my foot off the gas and drive. Now, sometimes in some areas, or if I'm in a hurry, that ability becomes much harder. What is a prompt? A prompt is why they put a speed limit 55 miles an hour sign up every so often in the road, because that prompts us. Otherwise, if we didn't have a prompt, we wouldn't be able to follow the behavior. So the model is real easy. Behavior, motivation, ability, and the prompt. And when we're looking at our children, let's say we want them to do math. Well, so on the chart, this motivation, this would be not much motivation down below, a lot of motivation up top. Now, motivation can come in two forms. So motivation can be pleasure, or motivation can be pain. A lot of times we'll say to our children, if you don't get this done, you're not going to youth group. Okay? So we're trying to increase the motivation to get it done. What about ability? Okay, so easy to do, this would be hard to do. Obviously, if it's easier to do, it doesn't take as much to motivate. This would be the action line would be like how easy it is to get somebody to do something. The easier it is to do, the less motivation I would have to give them. And as it requires more motivation as the ability gets more difficult. So what I'm looking at is, okay, so with math, let's look at something as simple as math with students. Motivation is, we know we just have to get it done. Well, that's not very motivating to a student. So perhaps, like when we went to school, we actually had goal charts, and as soon as you finished it, you crossed off the goal. That was a reward, and it was a motivation. And so that's one of the reasons that in the chart, you can have a checkbox when you complete the task, because that's a little bit of a reward that gives motivation. If you create in the brain, our brain chemistry, if you create in the brain a negative experience that causes pain, there's not much motivation there. Now, discipline different than pain, right? But if it's just I'm going to do all this work and you're still just going to get mad because there were some problems wrong and it's going to be tension. Now the motivation is low and the ability to complete the task becomes even more difficult. So what you see with something like Master Books with Math is the lessons are shorter, so they're doable. So the ability to complete the math becomes easier than harder. And then the motivation, well, let's say you have a rigorous curriculum where you've got, let's say you've got the rigorous curriculum where you're going to do, 5 pages of practice. Well, now it becomes much more difficult to accomplish that task because you requires more motivation to actually get it done. The more difficult the task, the more motivation is required. So in that regards, I think what we do with, say, math lessons for a living education, we have easy lessons. They don't require as much motivation because if we can get the math done and it's easier and we're learning and it's more fun, then it requires less motivation. And so when students start using math lessons for living education, it taps into a model like this very easily, because suddenly families will say, you know, it was tears and struggle and we were threatening, and suddenly we're doing the math lessons for living education. It's not taking as long, but the students are retaining more, right? And it's a game changer for our family. So one thing we can add to this would be the prompt. So a lot like speed limit, you know, why do I obey the speed limit? There's a sign that gives us a prompt. Something that we use is just having a time of day that we start. But you could easily add a prompt like setting your phone. Now I do, even on my phone, believe it or not, I run alarms so that right before, say, I go home, an alarm would come up and say, you know, be present, be happy, leave work at home. Or leave work.
Leave work at home.
Leave work.
Every
leave work
single
at
day.
work.
I'm like, would you just leave work at work for once?
Yeah. So that gives me a prompt as I move into the family environment to not carry that forward. And so those little prompts we can even do with something like school, where we put a prompt of at 11 o'clock the alarm goes off or my phone chimes and it plays a fun beat or something, and we just say, hey guys, we're going to do math. We're going to do 30 minutes of math. And you know, if I can say it too, I think that students' attention spans have gone down considerably. And so when we take a math curriculum that's 20 or 30 years old and we say, hey, we're going to do this today, especially with young students, and then we get frustrated because we think that they're being willful and not doing it. And I think that we have to be careful with that, because it's important that we recognize things are changing, and our students are gathering information all the time. When I was in 5th grade, I was not the best student, and I think it was just temporary, but I was struggling to pay attention, and the teacher didn't like me and I didn't like the teacher. You didn't ever experience that. So
No, I love my teacher.
thank you. That was good. That was a good answer. Yeah. My 5th grade teacher, he wanted, you know, he was a young teacher, and he set up a broad jump. Now you wouldn't know this today looking at me, but I could actually jump pretty far. And so he jumped, and he jumped farther than the rest of the class until I went, and I blew him away in a broad jump in 5th grade. Well then, he couldn't even come close, and we didn't really ever connect from that point on. But it didn't matter because I beat him. So, but anyways, okay. So I was struggling with division, and there was no motivation for me to learn division. I didn't like him. His approval meant nothing to me, and division was difficult. He was a smart teacher, I'll give him that. So he knew that I had a crush on one of the girls in the class. So he took the girl in the class and he made her go out in the hall with me and teach me division. Now, I had a lot of motivation at that moment because, number one, I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't care if he thought I was stupid, but I didn't want her thinking I was stupid.
This is true.
So I was like, every neuron in my brain was firing, you need to learn this, you need to learn this. So there was motivation. And even though long division was a difficult concept for me and the ability was hard, the motivation was there. Not only did I want to not look stupid, right? But I also wanted to make sure that I got it. Like I didn't mind having a private tutor if that was going to work. So let's show the teacher that this is something that he could do again. So in that process, I learned long division. Like in about 20 minutes, I got it. It took him all year, and then he said, hey, let me get you a tutor. And that tutor that I wanted to impress, all of a sudden, bang, long division, and those concepts stuck hard. The reason I tell that story is because sometimes we think that students need a lot of repetition and a lot of that. What we really need is to be motivated to learn And even though it may be difficult, if the motivation is high enough, it becomes a lot easier for us.
Yeah, there was like earlier in the year, I've had things where like I wasn't ever motivated to learn until like my friend group was like really interested in something, and I'm like, I'm the only one who doesn't know what everybody's talking about. So then it becomes like that was my motivation to go and learn everything about what I was wanting to learn about.
Yeah, without that, what's the point? Because our brains kind of default to lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And why expend energy learning something new if there's no motivation to do it? And even if we do learn it, if we don't have a prompt to remind us to do that, in fact, somebody recently, as in reading, they were talking about their relationship, and his wife had wanted him to do something, and he kept forgetting. And it was just the matter of a prompt that said, it's important that you take out the garbage when you get up in the morning so that I don't have to. And so then the prompt actually became, when I get up in the morning and I'm making coffee, that's when I go and take out the garbage. These three elements, there isn't really one size fits all with our kids. All of my kids were motivated differently. Some were motivated for approval. Some were motivated to avoid pain. Some things came easy to, and some they came difficult to. And so you have to tweak this a little bit. But one of the reasons, like with curriculum, we say one size doesn't fit all, is that precise thing, is that our students may, one curriculum may just fit perfectly with the student, and it helps their style of learning. It helps them grasp things. It's easy enough for them to embrace that, versus other curriculums that may be harder. And then for some students where, say, math comes easy and it's just natural easy, they may actually enjoy doing math. And so if they're a math oriented student, they don't need the motivation to do it. They're actually going to enjoy doing that.
Everybody wants coffee now, so I say this. Nobody said that they wanted to take the garbage out, but if you take the garbage out, you can have a cup of coffee, Desiree and Jess.
Treat yourself to a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Right, because that's what you said was the
I want
prompt.
a cup of coffee now.
I do too. But funny, nobody wanted to take the garbage out. That was the original thing. Once you take the garbage out, or have one of your kids take the garbage out, then you can have a cup of coffee.
Yeah. You can actually tweak your own habits, right? They call it habit stacking. It's from the book, what's the name? It's a habits book, but habit stacking. So you just add something small, like that. Like when I get up and I make coffee and I'm waiting for it to boil, then I will grab the garbage and take it out. And so I just add it to the habits that I already have in my day. When I drive into the driveway, before I open the door, or when I drive into the driveway, after I take out the key, I will look around to see if there's anything I should take with me. And that adding a stack or a habit to that fits into the flow easier and makes it easy to modify habits and change habits as well. There's a lot of science on behavioral design with so much of what we do as being habit-based. I think that there's a lot too on the brain. And once a student gets into, like, the more we do something, the easier it becomes and the less motivation it takes. So if I get up every morning and I just put my cup of coffee, put the water on.
Just your coffee talk.
Okay.
Desiree already took the garbage out. So you know what? Just help yourself to a cup of coffee, Des.
Yes, please. If I get up, put the coffee water on, take the garbage out, the first time I do it, it may be a little bit difficult. It may not be the thing that I want to do right away. But let's say I do it another day and another day and another day. And every morning I get up and make coffee. So it's easy enough. I just put the water on, go grab the garbage bag, take it out quick, come in, and then make my cup of coffee. The more I do that, the more the pattern gets ingrained into my brain, and the easier that becomes. And pretty soon it becomes a habit, and it doesn't require anywhere near the motivation that it did. So with our students, if we get our students into the habit, like the first few times, it might be a challenge to get them to sit down and get excited because the alarm just went off. That's where we want that to be a real positive experience, because also emotions and the brain chemistry plays into that. So we want it to be real positive and just, hey, I see that you worked really hard today for these 20 minutes that we did math. And because you did, we're going to just stop today. You've got years to do this. So just test it, right? Today we're only going to do this much. We're going to read this page and answer these questions, then we're done with math. And when you get done with math, we may even celebrate. We may even have somewhat of a party. We may go get, what are those bars? The Golden Nugget?
Yeah.
We may go get, an ice cream or something like that to celebrate the win that today we did this page.
Right.
You don't need to do that all the time, because you just kind of condition the student that when the bell goes off or there's a ding, that we're going to do math. It's not going to be forever. It's going to be manageable. The ability is there. Even if it's difficult, all you got to do is focus for 20 minutes, and we're going to get that. And then you continue doing it, making it easier for the student.
Right.
Any questions?
Yeah, there are a couple. I will add too. Sometimes it's not even just giving them something physical, because there's a lot of people jumping in saying like they get toys or rewards at the end of like a course or something. And you touched on just that positive reinforcement at the end, like, hey, I saw that you were working on this. Like, I noticed that. I think you've improved so much. For me, mine wasn't like, I never needed like punishment to learn something. It was like approval that I was working towards.
Right.
So growing up, you guys would say that I had nice handwriting, so that was always a motivation for me to be like, keep this standard of like, I have nice handwriting, like this is something that I should do. And so people like you guys would like tell me that and like get me like calligraphy courses or whatever to help build that. And so like that was helpful to me.
Yeah.
Another thing to touch on, Dawn said in the app, she said, I'm having a hard time getting my eldest lack of motivation that's affecting my youngest. So the ages are 15 and 5. She said motivations tend to be short-lived because of bipolar anger. And I'll say to that, because I'm number 4 of 9, some of my older siblings, like different things that they had problems with, like attitude or whatnot, it does affect the younger students. But I think what affected me most was just the way that you or mom reacted to situations, or you or mom reacted to the older siblings' reactions.
Okay, so it affected you the way we reacted to them. How?
Right, because if you were shorter, then I respect your reactions more than I respect one of my older siblings' reactions, especially if we're like close in age. And so there were certain things growing up that seeing you react the way that you did and staying calm, cool, and collected motivated me to, like, if I was in an argument or something, to kind of reflect that same reaction. Right. And to stay even tempered in it all.
So you followed our example more than you followed their example.
So some of my motivation was following your example.
Okay. I do, sometimes I can see the effect of a student. The older student does affect the behavior of the younger students, and especially with modeling. And that can be a challenge. I think sometimes you just have to have an honest conversation, and you have to say, this is the way life works, right? You're 15 years old right now. You're having a meltdown because you're being asked to do something that's challenging you. Now, in some special needs situations, that's a way to protect the brain, because the brain is frustrated, and anger is a way that I can actually get people to back off and leave me alone to get my cool. And sometimes it's easy when you're working with a special needs situation to step into that moment and get caught up in it too, because our mirror neurons are firing and we respond that way, and it doesn't help anything. So having for us, learning how to stay in control, but then to explain, okay, here's the goal. The goal is we're learning skills that are going to help you as an adult. My job is to help train you as an adult. And if you're going to begin having meltdowns every time we do something challenging, then you're not going to transition from here into an adult. And the goal is for you to be an adult, to be able to live on your own, to have your own job, to have your own car, to have your own family. These are the goals that I'm helping you do. I'm not just trying to make you do school so I can tell the state that you did school. I'm trying to transition you from being under me to being the head of your own household. And that's the motivation. The reason we learn math isn't just to say we did math today. The reason we're learning math is because it's helping us transition from child to adult. So I want you to be an adult. Whatever motivates him, right? It might not be, sometimes we go right to motivation and think, I'm just going to find motivation. Motivation rarely works in helping. Sometimes it's more the ability. Like, are we asking too much? Can we reduce it a little bit? Is there a struggle or a challenge or something we're unaware of? Sometimes with the kids, we found like something benign would have happened that changed the emotions of the student, and just getting to the root of, why are you angry? Why are you upset? What's happening here? And trying to understand that. There were times where then the younger students, we would have to have conversations and say, I realize that what you're seeing in this behavior is this, but you're on your own journey, and you're not necessarily, you don't need to act that way, and you don't need to pattern your life after what you're seeing here, because same thing, we're working to transition you into adulthood, and so the motivation is more the transition than just accomplishing math.
Right. And there were so many times that you have pulled us aside and been like, you've just discussed the situation that was going on maybe, or like given us an opportunity to just say how we were feeling, and just that, like, you being intentional about talking to us meant so much. And then, like Jess said, she jumped in and said, it's good to know, Brittany, my middle child can have a hard time getting motivated to do her schoolwork sometimes. I say another thing is that, like, when you or mom were super passionate about learning something, like, that was definitely motivational to, like, me. And I know for some of the other, like, siblings, that's always been motivational to me, because, like, something that I've said that I appreciate about him most is that he's always wanting to learn. He's never stopped. He's like always got 3 books that he's got, like one in the bedroom. He's got one in the bathroom or in the kitchen. Like, he's always just like learning and learning and learning. And so because he's loved to learn and been super intentional about that, that's motivated me to help, like, to want to learn and to grow and become better and that sort of thing. So
yeah, and I don't look at it. I know sometimes the kids would feel like we were lecturing them. I feel like we were always trying to provide them insights. So I do this all the time. I know some people don't appreciate it, but I give insights. Like, here's my game plan. This is what I'm doing. This is this is the game I'm playing, and I'm not. It's full disclosure. And so with each of you, it was the outcomes that are desired are you guys succeed in life and excel, and not, like, you come up a difficult challenge. We want you to rise to the challenge, but we also want to make sure the challenge is doable. We want to be careful that we didn't set you up for failure, that you were, it was, the ability was there.
Yeah. I will say, like, sometimes early on, I think it kind of felt like a lecture. Could have felt like a lecture. And there were times where it did, but I think the more you kind of did it and were intentional about it, it felt more like we understood that, no, it's because you wanted the best for us and you were helping us grow and become the best person that we as individuals could become.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times where you're like, this isn't a lecture. Like, I want to have a discussion with you and talk this through, and so that we can, like, approach this healthier for the next time or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I love Margaret Thatcher has the quote that if you have to tell people you're a lady, you're not. And that was a pivotal spot in my parenting, because I realized that if I have to tell you to respect me because I'm the leader, then I'm not leading. Mm-hmm. And I realized there are times that our authority will be challenged, and the foolishness in a child and all of these things. But a lot of times that can just be an ego trip, and it can be people can just be lazy and not actually be leading. And when I lead and when I invest myself to grow spiritually, and I'm growing emotionally, I'm all of these things, my family follows. It's like, it's amazing. The law of the lid, that you get what you lead, and that the organization that you lead will never excel beyond you, is so stinking true. If I don't like what I see in my family, 9 times out of 10, it's because it lies with me. There's something with me that needs to be changed and adjusted. And once I've done that, I notice my family exponentially grows alongside me. So that's a change in mindset, because sometimes it's like, because I'm the boss, you'll do what I say because I'm the boss. But that's not the way we want to be led. That's not really, I think when we have effective leadership, we want to be rewarded when we do good things. When we've achieved something good, we want to be rewarded for it. We want those who lead us to make sure that the tasks before us are doable and that the tools that we need are accessible. I don't mind that there's discipline in areas as long as I know beforehand that there's going to be discipline for something that is like, it's the law to go 55. I know that when I speed, if I see lights behind me and I'm going 65, I understand that. I may not like it. I may not like the ticket, but I understand that I broke the law because it was defined beforehand. So when you respond out of I'm in a bad mood today and everything you do is going to annoy me, then that doesn't work, because that's not genuine leadership. That's just emotional leadership. And we have to be careful not to do that as well.
Right. Alyssa over in the Facebook live stream, she asked, what are some of your favorite motivational tools you use for your boys?
Well, definitely there's a certain amount of things that they have to do in order to get privileges, right? If they're going to go to Wednesday night Awanas, of course now it's harder, but if they want to go to Wednesday night Awanas or to youth group, the schoolwork needs to be caught up. They need to have rooms clean, those type of things, or else they lose those privileges. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be as hard now as it was with the older kids. But
I think that one's been very effective, though, because, that's life. If you don't pay your taxes or you don't keep up to date with things, like, there's going to be consequences or you're going to lose privileges. So if you don't have your standard things like staying up to date with your school, keeping your room clean, having your chores done, then you lose those privileges, and that's what life is when you become an adult and move out.
Right. And we always relate it back to, because when you're an adult, if you don't pay your utility bills, they turn off your power.
Right.
If you don't make your car payment, you won't have a car.
Right.
If you don't have a car, you can't go. So this is the job you have to do at 15 years old.
Instead of you're grounded to your room, which is effective in some cases, but that's a good way to prepare them for actual adult life.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of, very rarely, I won't say very rarely, there's just some subjects that aren't that exciting for some students. And so learning isn't, it isn't the bomb for them. In that case, I think Kristen's been really good at making sure that she didn't just overwhelm them for the sake of you had courses, she made it as fun and as interesting as possible. She also allowed you guys to have input into what courses you do.
And Random Girl over in the app, she said letting my kids make little choices, do you want to do history next or practice handwriting? I think that's helpful, and Mom did let us decide. She let us help choose our curriculum in the catalog. So she's like, hey, I'm working on your history. What are your thoughts? What do you want to kind of learn this year? What do you want to focus on? And then we kind of go through a few of them. And because I was in on the decision, I made the school year was I made it my own.
Yeah. And
so there was more motivation, because I couldn't just be I hate this history. Mom, what did you do? I hate this. I was part of that decision, so I wanted to prove that I made the right choice or something like that.
Yeah. Even a behavioral issue that we've dealt with recently was in growth hacking it, the option of saying, would you like to do A or would you like to do B? Where before everything was, let's do A. It was in a special needs situation, but we're gonna go do A, and there was almost resistance and rebelling versus, do you want to do A or do you want to do B? At least having just that amount of choice of A or B changed. It's good. My computer's decided to do an update in the middle of it. So
Marlo was laughing. I was just, Mom, what did you do? That was some of the things I was like, there was one year I was like, Mom, I hate this history. Like, but I was part of that decision. So,
yeah.
Somebody's saying there was a mic drop statement. I wonder what did you say that was a mic drop statement?
I don't know.
Let us know. Tell us. Re-drop that mic.
Is that Megan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Vicky said, my biggest problem is checking in with my kids regularly. Did you have a system for checking in on their work? We are new to self-grading and caught some kids not grading well or copying answers instead of correcting or doing them. How did you handle that?
So not everybody's going to agree with this. Okay? It's my new thing.
This is going to be your next meeting.
Prepare yourself. Brace yourself. It's like when you're in an accident or about to have an accident, you're like, whoa.
It's the mom arm.
Prepare yourself. Yeah. Again, I look to what does real life look like. So for me, in the position that I perform in, I don't want to have to be babysat every day. And if I don't perform, though, in my job, like every quarter or for a year, pretty soon I'm not going to bring value to my employer, and my employer will let me go. So I look at it like what I put into my job on a daily basis is what I get on a yearly basis. And with some of my students, especially as they get older, they may have to actually complete the year. But I may be like, you don't get to retake the test. Like, you knew what you had to do. It was your responsibility. You're 15 years old, right? You're 12 years old. And you've got your work. You know what your goals are. It's your job to learn. We're doing everything else. We've made it easy as possible. We've given you a good environment. We've got all this. You continue to do that. We score the work. We say, oh, you know what? Your grades are getting to the point where you may not pass this year. They get to the end of the year. They fail. Their grade isn't a passing grade, what we consider as a passing grade. We've made them repeat the entire grade. Now, we're homeschooling, so who even knows except for them? But they've had to do it. And usually it's so shameful, right? For them, because it wasn't a lack of ability, it was a lack of motivation.
Right. So I will say, because she said her biggest problem is checking in with my kids regularly. Do you have a system for checking in? So within the year, we had 4 quarters.
Yes.
And so at every quarter, like we would all, as a student, we would always score our own work. We'd take the test and then we'd submit it into, like, my mom had like a little folder on her desk. And then at the end of every quarter, you guys would score and grade those. So if we weren't doing a good job grading or scoring our tests, then that meant that we weren't learning the materials right. And that would reflect itself within the test. So that's how you would know if we weren't actually doing the work. And then, it was a good check-in to make sure that we were just like caught up with where we were supposed to be.
But somebody may say, oh, what if they didn't get the material? Well, then they should have come to us and said, I'm not getting this. I struggled on the test.
Right.
I don't understand this. Because that's the way life is working. Yeah. Right? So, It's part of being self-motivated to accomplish. Like, the goal for learning, I'm going to give you as much as I can. And this wasn't the case in every subject, and it's not the case for every student. But it was the pattern, because I want life patterns that when you graduated, you were like hitting the ground running. You didn't need a supervisor telling you.
Every single day.
Yeah. Oh, did you do this?
Right.
And, I didn't want you babied. I wanted you guys to be able to go. Yeah. One of my sons, he's working at a dealership, and they had to let a lot of people go. And he walked in on a conversation where one of the managers was saying, why can't you be like him? He's doing everything he can to keep this place open. And he'll answer phones, he'll clean cars, he'll sell cars, he'll do whatever it takes because he's motivated. And, as his dad who is part of his homeschooling, that brings such joy to me because that's what I want. I wanted him to look for what needs to happen here to keep things going. Not I had to babysit him every day. And he did have to repeat one of his subjects. He didn't have to repeat a whole grade, but he had to repeat one of his subjects one time. And, we wouldn't give him the privilege. Like, we wouldn't be, Yeah, you can tell people you're in 10th grade because you're not. You failed 10th grade.
That's what's embarrassing.
You are in 9th grade, and you chose to be in 9th grade when you chose not to do your work. Now, we've graduated 5, and I realize other people may have educational philosophies that differ from ours, but I'm proud of the 5 that we've graduated. So,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Megan said that your mic drop moment was comparing school to life, taxes, etc., which I think I said first.
Yes, she was probably referring to you because it was your
That was my first mic drop moment. Happy dance.
We got anything else?
If grades were low during the quarter, what did you do? So that's when you would be like, oh, they're so stressful. They'd be at the kitchen table, and if, as a student, what we would all do, you could tell when quarterlies were coming up because the house would get real clean. And it wasn't anything you or mom did. We all just went into deep clean mode. You got our rooms clean. You offered, I'd be like, Mom, do you want a cup of coffee? And she'd be like, yeah, actually I do. And I'm like, I'll make you a cup of coffee. So they'd be at the table. And if the grades were low or whatnot, you would just kind of call one of us in. And a lot of times it was more private. And you'd be like, hey, like, we're noticing this, like, and you give them the chance, you would give us the chance to kind of say what was up or defend ourselves.
Yeah.
Mine usually wasn't grades, but it was like falling behind.
If there was a hard issue, like you've been telling me for the last 9 weeks your school is done and you're in good shape and you lied, then you wrote the book of Proverbs.
Oh yeah, you'd be in way more trouble if you lied about it than if you just...
Oh, you'd be better off to say, you know what, I haven't done my work and I think I'm
just start
failed.
crying. I'm not a crier, but I can cry on cue. And I learned to do it through that. You didn't know that till this right now.
I'm a sucker for tears. It probably helped. But if you had lied to me, then those are hard issues. And with a hard issue, then we approach it differently. Then we go to the Book of Wisdom, and we would apply the Book of Wisdom, and that didn't kill you.
No, it didn't. I wrote the Book of Proverbs from front to be,
all
front
31
to back,
chapters.
in cursive. And I sat there until I got it done for like 2-3 weeks. But I don't regret that. I think it was really good looking back.
Yeah.
I didn't even regret it at that time. I didn't like sitting there writing it, but even after, like, I memorized a lot of it. So.
Yeah. That's just been part of it's what we've done ever since.
Now, Jess said, it's a great idea to write the Book of Proverbs. I may have to steal that. If you do steal that, do not tell your kids that you got that from Master Books, okay?
Well, here's the thing. You actually can. Tell them it's from me. Tell them I did it.
Mr. Pratt said yes, because you've done that before. He used to tell my friends' parents about it, and then they'd get mad at me because they're like, your dad told their parents. I mean, at the end of it, they also appreciated it, but it was just funny.
It's not discipline. Well, it's training, it's discipling, but it's going to the Book of Wisdom. Proverbs is a book of wisdom, and it was used to train young royalty. And so if you're going to act foolish, we need to go to the Book of Wisdom. We need to set things aside because we have a hard issue, and we need to work on that. It's not you got to write scripture because you're bad, and I'm going to discipline you with it. It was, okay, we need to focus on the hard issue first. Because until we fix the hard issue, we're not going to get to a behavior issue, right? So that's where the Book of Proverbs really did help, and we always saw some real big changes. And all of the kids who've written Proverbs, some have written it 6 times in their academic career. I have one who is trying his hardest not to ever have to write Proverbs. He may pull it off. Like if he thinks he's going to be accused of telling a lie. He's like, this is what it is. And I'm not lying because I'm telling you the full out truth. Do I have to write Proverbs? I mean...
It is another motivational tool.
Yes. But I don't do it as a discipline. I do it more as a training.
No, and I will say, as somebody who had to do it, I did not enjoy it at that time just because it was long and tedious.
Yes.
But I, at no point, was like upset that you made me do it, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
I came away like memorizing a bunch of verses from it.
They would get it done. They would hand me the sheets, and I would tear them in half. And I would tell them, we're done.
I was like, that kind of felt good that you ripped it, but also I just spent 3 weeks of my life on that.
And again, one of the things that I'm looking at is what does life look like? How does this look? If I disobey the law, right? What's going to happen to me? I'm going to have consequences, and so that's a consequence of having to if I do something really bad, I may even have to take driver ed courses or regain my license. And so we wanted to instill that life has consequences, and those are consequences. So, yeah.
Couple questions. What age did we start writing Proverbs? And then Clark asked the whole book. Well, sometimes it's the chapter. Younger students do less. So if you were like 3rd, 4th grade, you would start with a chapter or 2, and it kind of depended on the offense. But it wasn't just like, oh, you're behind in your school, you need to write Proverbs.
No. If it was a hard issue, it meant you lied. If you lied, you stole something.
Mine wasn't even about school. Mine wasn't in trouble for school. I was just having like a very big attitude problem, and I was getting super disrespectful.
That's a hard issue that had to be addressed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I would say, as far as the age, it's kind of like they know, right? They know and they're capable of doing it. So they don't like it, and not everybody would agree. It's something that I think the Lord gave us as a tool, and it's what worked for our family. Does not recommend, or is not the views and opinions of Master Books. It is wholly what we did as a family, and since how we're talking about it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Let's see. There's one, Arena. Younger daughter is less motivated to read books than her older sister, but what I have noticed with her is that when she does something online, she reads so much without even realizing it. So I've used a different approach. See, that's growth hacking. Growth hacking isn't something everybody talks about in homeschooling because it's not part of homeschooling. It's part of business and marketing. But growth hacking is keep trying it, right? It's trial and error. It's trying to figure out what works. And every student is unique. So we change the motivation. We change the abilities. We change the prompts until we kind of find the mix that's just perfect with each student. And then that may change as they grow older and their hormones change and the circumstances change. But you lead by being creative to help your team succeed. That's what a leader does. They work to make their team succeed. A boss drives people. A boss manages people. A boss tells people what to do. A leader gives them the tools, says this is the goal, now work towards the goal.
100%
That makes sense?
agree, yes, and I believe that you reflected that in your parenting style with us.
Thank you.
A number of times you sat us down and were like, hey, I realize you're struggling with this. What can I do to help you succeed? And that meant so much more than just being like, hey, you need to fix this.
Because how could you fix it, especially if I needed to change something?
Right.
Good. Well, hopefully this has been worth your time and you found something to take away from this that will help you, help your family and your children be motivated and on point. So, all right.
Awesome.
So we are giving away 2,500 reward points.
Yep, I know who I'm going to give them to in the app. I don't know who I'm going to give them to on Facebook yet.
Okay, so you're going to go through that and find out?
Yep, I'll do that as soon as we get off. I'll message y'all.
Okay, so you're going to message, and then we will put 2,500 reward points in the account?
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, guys, I pray you have a most blessed weekend. Teach Them Diligently is actually doing an online conference, and we have a booth in their hall. And so we are going.
It's really cool.
You go around to all the tables and you click on it, and all of a sudden you pop up and you're like, bam! And we're like, hey, welcome to Master Books. How can we help you? And they're like, oh, I didn't think I was here. And then they go out, and then there's like 3 or 4 people come on, and kids are screaming. It's just like a homeschool convention. It's pretty awesome. So we're going to that right now. So God bless you guys. We look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you for participating, commenting.
Yes.
This is a highlight of our week, isn't it?
It is.
I love This Is Connect. Yeah. So, all right. We'll talk to you guys later. God bless you.
Bye.